All right. First rule of this channel, we not talk about this channel. Second rule of this channel, this is not legal advice. So this is going to be the roll, don't roll Grift for week 7 of fantasy football. And to begin with, never trust Thursday night football. So this is a pretty good indication of why to stay away from like not good offenses, that we can project that ahead of time. And in this one, you're looking at Vegas saying 42.5 implied points. So that's going to be on the lower side when it comes to these two teams. They did have the Saints by 3.5. So again, like take all this with a grain of salt. In general, I try and look at what Vegas is thinking and compare it to what I'm thinking, trying to figure out like why Vegas would have totals that are a little different than what I would think. And we're going to talk about like the Ravens and the Buccaneers game here in a second. I think the Redskins game also. So Bo Nix, what we thought we knew, he does 10 for 75 on the ground. That's all I really care about. Like Devontae falls in the end zone twice. I probably wouldn't have been rolling him out. The other guy to talk about this, and I had to go look this up like multiple times to make sure. So like Cortland Sutton, not injured, and he was active. 86% of snaps, no targets. So that's just how it goes sometimes. The other two guys for the Broncos that we were looking at, and I'm going to look at like the advanced stats later in the week. Troy Franklin 5 for 6 or 6 for 5 for 50, and then Lucas Kroll 4 for 3 for 41. Troy Franklin is probably not going to be a league winner. Lucas Kroll may down the line when it comes down to that, and then Bo Nix was magically able to overthrow Lucas Kroll and then underthrow Troy Franklin on the same play. They're both wide open. Probably could have been a touchdown for either one of those guys. Again, I don't really care about Spencer Rattler. He did 5 for 34 on the ground when it comes down to that. It did not look like he was very comfortable in this game, and that's to be expected when he's missing his top 2 wide receivers. Anyway, sometimes don't overthink it. Cedric Wilson, 7 for 6 for 57. He does get a late touchdown in this one. Alvin Kamara, again, vacated targets tend to go to running backs. He gets 7. He was inefficient on the ground and through the air. And then you're also looking at Mason Tipton doing 9 targets, 6 for 45. And with Rashid Shaheed being out, like that's going to be a little bit interesting down the line when it comes to that. Bub Means, like 5 for 3 for 37. That probably would have been like along the lines of what I was thinking was going to go on with these two guys. And then I don't trust Jawan Johnson, so whatever. All right, the first game, the only game that has like a little weather to it, is going to be that Patriots and Jaguar game. That's going to be over there in London. The Jaguars did stay over there early on that one. And then Vegas is saying on this one that they have the Jaguars by 6.5, 42.5 implied points in this one. Let me just scroll back up to the top when it gets down that. So when you're looking at Drake May, he did pop up during the week and did go get an MRI on his knee, and then he came off of the injury report. So like, don't have to worry about that. Because of all of, especially now with the rain and then them having to go over there, I probably would downgrade streaming Drake May this week if I can get around it. If you're in a deep enough league or a shallow enough league that you can get around rolling out your Drake May shares. Ramondre right now, he did practice in full. He's still questionable with that foot. And again, I probably would be downgrading these guys. I don't know how many of these guys I want to be rolling out there. That would even mean like Pop Douglas. Like again, weather. I can't really control them having to go overseas. Like, I don't know how much I would really want to be rolling out Demario Douglas if I don't have to be rolling him out there. When it comes to the Jaguars, on the other hand, we'll start off with like the running back situation. First and foremost, like Travis Etienne, questionable with a hamstring. He did practice all week in a limited capacity. So like after, he's going to miss some time, and then, he looks like he's going to be playing out there. So again, Patriots are projected to be a little bit better defense, running back by committee. I don't know how much I would feel comfortable rolling him out there, even though Vegas says that they're going to be rolling him out there when it comes down to that. Even with from the wide receiver perspective, I could definitely see that Brian Thomas is going to get like taken away again by Christian Gonzalez. Like I don't know if I would necessarily trust that. If you're chasing Evan Ingram, yeah, maybe like I can understand that the 10 targets that he had that last week. If the Patriots are going to be taking away Brian Thomas, I imagine they're just going to be check down monstering Evan Ingram, especially in your scamming leagues, to go after that. And probably the only other guy I would even think about would be Christian Kirk. And again, this would be if they're going to take away Brian Thomas, and I could definitely see them doing that. The other guy that would be the beneficiary of that would be Christian Kirk. But again, I don't know how much I can control these games. I don't like these from a fantasy perspective. I do not like these London games at all, and I tend to try and stay away from them as much as I can. All right, Seahawks and Falcons, you're looking at 48 implied points. That's a little higher, so I can just roll out everybody that I want. And 3.5 points when it comes to the Falcons in this one. So, yeah, I'd probably be rolling out, like, everybody that I have when it comes to this. So, like, that would mean, like, Mooney's on the table, that, Lockett and JSN and those, like, wide receiver 2 type, wide receiver 3 range. When you're looking at the Seahawks and you're wondering about like whether or not you should be rolling out your Tyler Algier shares in this one, yeah, they can get run on a little bit. They are towards the bottom of the defense, 144 points or 44 yards a game when it comes to rushing. So that, yeah, you can be rolling out your Algiers and expecting that you might get a chance of, a little bit of gravy and then the ability for him to fall into the end zone on top of that. Like Kyle Pitts would still be in that streamer range if you're wondering, and then you're chasing generally like, are you going to get like a 40 or 50 pass attempt a game for the Seahawks? I'm going to see if I have anything else to talk about in this game. And there was no injuries really to talk about in this one. So next up, we're looking at the Titans and the Bills, and it's 47.5 points in this one. This was one of the ones that I thought was a little interesting. So 6.5 point favorite for the Bills. I would have thought it would be a little bit higher overall. In general, that's going to be because the Titans defense is the best defense in football right now when it comes to like yards per game. So think about that ahead of time when you're thinking about rolling out your guys. To start off with, like, there's probably nobody from the Titans that I would be rolling out there outside of Tony Pollard, and that's going to be because Tajay Spears is going to be out with that hamstring. When it comes to the Bills right now, they are tracking on Amari Cooper playing. So I probably would downgrade him into that like flex range, wide receiver 3 range if you're going to be rolling him out there. Like Dalton Kincaid's going to be in that coin flip range, again, because you can't control like how the distribution of targets is going to go in this one with Cooper projected to play overall. Ray Davis is on the injury report now with a calf. Expecting that, like, if you're wondering about rolling him out there, I probably wouldn't be in this matchup. James Cook is off the injury report with that toe, and this would be more probably chasing some receiving work than it would be the opportunity for him to fall in the end zone. Probably would downgrade James Cook with the expectation that this could end up being some type of like running back by committee between him and Ray Davis in this one. Kincaid is off the injury report. If I didn't already say that, I'm just looking at this. Treylon Burks' knee may go on IR, and then Will Levis did pop up with that shoulder that he's been dealing with overall. Bengals and Browns, there aren't a lot of injuries to talk about in this one, and you're looking at 47.5 implied points. In this one, they have the Bengals by a point. So this was one of the ones where, like, I'm like, why? The Browns haven't been good. The Bengals have looked a little bit better. I don't know why they would have it this close. And the other thing is, like, I can understand they have the Bengals by a point in this one, but with lower implied point total. So they're expecting like higher points overall, but they're expecting like it to be relatively close game. I don't see how they would get to that outside of just like they're thinking that the Bengals defense is that bad. That's generally what they're thinking, and they would be bottom third when it comes to like 356 points a game, and then points they are 25 points a game. So they're expecting the Bengals defense to bail out Deshaun Watson. I don't know if I would necessarily go that far when it comes down to that. So first and foremost, if you're interested, Nick Chubb is looking like he is going to play. That's with Jerome Ford being out with that hamstring. And again, like, I would be tracking if you're desperate enough that Pierre Strong is going to be, the safest play because he had the highest snaps, 11 total opportunities on those snaps. You would generally be looking at if the Deonta Foreman is active in this game. That would tell you who is going to get the red zone opportunities. I imagine that Nick Chubb's going to get the red zone opportunities regardless of if Foreman is active in this one. So, be advised. I probably would not be stashing any of the receivers for the Browns. Cedric Tillman may be the guy who gets the uptick with Cooper being traded overall. Like, Njoku's just going to be in that, like, should I play him, should I not play him type of range. In this case with, like, Njoku, you can also talk about the vacated opportunities going to running backs first, Strong, and second to David Njoku. So, yeah, I probably would upgrade him now that I think about it. Like, full practice on Wednesday. So, I didn't even think about that ahead of time. So, yeah, I would probably upgrade David Njoku to be in that, like, PPR scam area, 7 for 5 for 31, something like Evan Ingram. When it comes down to that stuff. And then the other one for the Bengals, no news on anybody. I would probably be looking at like not wanting to roll Zach Moss out. I would be looking to roll like Chase Brown if you're into that type of thing. All right. Browns and Packers, 48.5 implied points. So like, yeah, I'm looking at rolling out the guy that shouldn't have to tell you that. 2.5 point favorites for the Packers. And that's, they're playing at Green Bay. So that would explain that ahead of time. When it comes to the injuries, Bobby Trees is going to be out for the Texans. That probably shouldn't change anything. And then Wicks is going to be questionable with that shoulder when it comes to the Packs. That's going to probably not change whether or not I would be looking to roll out Christian Watson in that boom bust range wide receiver. And then Dobbs, I think, is going to be like a low end 2, high end 3, regardless of whether or not Wicks plays. Jaden Reed not on the injury report with that ankle overall in this one. So the big news would be if Wicks is out, it would probably slightly upgrade everybody. There's going to be less targets to go to everybody. Probably wouldn't change my mind too much on if I was going to roll these guys out. Outside of Jaden Reed, I wouldn't want to be rolling out the Packers wide receivers. The hope would have been with Reed out and Wicks out, we could have had a better consolidation of targets overall, but that's not looking like it's happening. So you do you when it comes to ones and twos and threes when it comes to the Packers, and then when it comes to the Texans and their wide receiver situation with Nico Collins being out, Tank and Diggs and Dalton Schultz, they all should be rolled out there in this game overall. All right. And then there's no injury designation on Joe Mixon. If you're wondering about that type of thing, Fins and Colts, they're up next. This is another one of the weird ones that I couldn't figure out. So 49 implied points when it comes to these two teams. This is off the fact that the Colts their Colts defense is really bad. That's the easy way to put it overall. They're third worst when it comes to yards per game, and then when it comes to scoring, they are actually not that high when it comes down. I thought they were a little higher up. But anyway, that's why Vegas has the higher implied point total games when you're looking at not Tua playing when it comes to the Dolphins. A-Chain is full, no injury designation on that one. OBJ popped up with a questionable designation, hamstring, personal. I don't care. And again, if you're rolling out your Waddles and your Tyreek Hills, you're doing it off of talent and not situation when it comes down to that. The other thing is in this game they have the Dolphins by a point. So even with Anthony Richardson being projected to start, he's likely to start this week. The other thing, if you're tracking your Colts wide receivers, and I don't want to be rolling out your Colts wide receivers in this one. So Pittman missed on Friday, but he's supposed to start. So you do you on that one. Maybe you could get a sneaky Adonai Mitchell role in this game overall in that wide receiver 3 range. If you get a Pittman out, Pittman is right now he missed on Friday, I think. No, he was full on Friday with a shoulder, so he is questionable on that one. Pittman was the one that was out. And then Josh Downs, it was limited, but he is going with a toe. If Anthony Richardson's going, the only guy I would maybe want to be rolling out there would be Alec Pierce at this point, trying to catch those air yards. I talked about that. What everybody else is here for is there's no Jonathan Taylor being out there. And if you're in a deep enough league, I wouldn't be chasing the inefficient Trey Sermon. I would probably be chasing the more efficient Tyler Goodson with these two guys that are going on in this one. I could also see there's a sneaky chance that Evan Hull ends up eating into both of them. But that's something I was talking about last week in general when it comes to that thing. Let's see. Don't think I have anything else. Lions and Vikings. And this one's going to be really difficult to project because of the Lions defense and the Vikings defense. 47 points. So that means Vegas is saying they're both good offenses, but they're both good defenses. The Lions are going to be the favored by 3 points in this game. And if we pull this up, so even with Aiden Hutchinson being out for the Lions, I generally don't necessarily think that's going to affect some of what's going on. The Lions still have a relatively good run defense, and then the Vikings, just the way that they're set up, they're going to stop the run and they're going to blitz you. And what that means is, I'm probably still rolling out all my Lions shares. I shouldn't have to tell you that. That includes Jameson Williams at this point when it comes down to that. And when it comes to the Vikings, the two things that you'd be looking at, and this is somewhat from a strategy scenario situation, is supposedly Aaron Jones is going to be a game time decision with that hip/hamstring, whatever. They're going to see how he warms up on this one. So I probably would not feel comfortable with Ty Chandler rolling him out there, especially with Cam Akers being traded for this week. What I would probably be more interested in is if I'm playing the Aaron Jones owner and he hasn't brought in Ty Chandler, I'm just going to be blocking that, whether or not I roll that out at all. And then the other news in this one would be TJ Hawkinson is questionable whether or not he's going to play this one. I don't think it downgrades Addison or Justin Jefferson, whether he plays or not at this point, he's going to be on some type of snap count. And then again, the neutral kind of script that Vegas is looking at, that 47 points, I do think it's going to be very unpredictable. This could be a shootout when it comes to the Lions and the Vikings. I could also see this like really being the under when it comes to the overall points. Like these two defenses could end up just making it very miserable in this game. I don't know how predictable the game will be overall. Eagles and Giants, and this is another one I think is going to be very difficult to predict because the Giants defense has been playing better and Jalen Hurts, and the Eagles have not been out of late. So 44 implied points overall in this game. You're also looking at the Eagles by 3.5. So, limiting your exposure overall to this game would probably be a good idea. Neighbors right now for the Giants, no injury designation going forward. So he's going to be playing in this one. When it comes to the running back situation, there's no injury designation for Devin Singletary. Outside of like desperation running back 2 land when it comes to Tyrone Tracy or like flex, I don't know if you can trust whatever usage is going to go on between him and Singletary at this point in this week. So like you're generally going to be flipping a coin, seeing if you're going to be right on either one of these guys. So like probably outside of like again desperation land or like your flex, because you have to be rolling some of those guys out there. I would be chasing some of these like wide receiver 3s than getting the wrong usage when it comes to these guys overall. Dallas Goedert is out in this one. Something we're tracking on all week. So he's out with that hamstring. Grant Calcaterra. So this is going to be one of the harder ones. So generally from a fantasy football perspective, if we have a tight end that projects to be the number 1 or number 2 in his offense, I'm rolling them out there. So in this game with what Vegas is saying, and I can definitely see that this is going to be an uglier game between two offenses that are struggling and two defenses that are like not bad at the very least, that it's hard to upgrade Grant Calcaterra outside of like I'm throwing a dart and hoping to get there because he would get upgraded. So probably would be looking at other guys like if Dalton Schultz is available, at that point because of the higher implied point total, like it's a good roll. The logic is there. I could also see that like there's just not a lot of targets going around, and the targets that are there, they get force fed to AJ Brown and to Devontae Smith overall in this game. And then outside of that, in this game, like I probably would be looking at both Wandale, as like a low end volume based wide receiver 2, and then even like Darius Slayton in this place. Like again, those 11 targets aren't magically going to go away. He is in that like Alec Pierce type boom bust range to begin with because of the speed. And then if teams decide that they're going to take away Malik Neighbors, those targets will tend to go someplace else. You could talk about like Tracy at that point, but if you're a deep enough league, I probably would be chasing some of the other guys that we could upgrade as being like the number 2s in their offense, even though from a fantasy perspective they'd be 3s overall in this one. Raiders and Rams, so I don't want to be touching the Raiders with your roster if you're wondering about that. 46 implied points in this game, and you're looking at the Rams by 4, which is a little surprising overall to me in this one. And then first and foremost, you're going to be looking at Cooper Kupp. Right now it's supposed to be like a game time decision, so paying attention to that. Jordan Whittington is questionable with the shoulder. What he's going to be in the offense is going to be heavily predicated upon well, first of all, if he's active. Right now he is trending in that direction, but whether or not Cooper Kupp is there overall, and I would probably be leaning towards like betting on Cooper Kupp, even though he may be limited and he may be the guy that they decide they're going to take away in the offense overall. This is one of the other things with Blake Corum coming out of the bye, stashing him ahead of time could see that this is going to eventually move towards a 50-50 split that we were maybe envisioning coming out of draft season for fantasy football. So again, stashing these guys with roads to win leagues. Yeah, Blake Corum is back on that limited road for guys that could do that, like your Ray Davises and your Tyrone Tracy's that are going to be out there with that. Let's see some of the other ones that I have out there. Jacoby Myers is doubtful, and Zamir White is going to be questionable with a groin. I don't even know who the starting quarterback is going to be for the Raiders. I wouldn't be rolling out anybody not named Brock Bowers when it comes to the Raiders in this game. All right. And then moving on to the Panthers and the Commanders, 42.5 implied points. So this was one of the ones that was a little surprising to me, and they actually have the Commanders by 3 points. So trying to figure out, like, do the Panthers have a magical like defense that is good at football at this one? Like, that would be the main thing that I was wondering, like, why do they have such low implied point totals for the team that is the worst defense in football when it comes to scoring overall. That's my question. I don't know what Vegas knows that I don't at this point. So I would only really be interested in rolling out like the 3 or 4 guys when it comes, or not named Jaden Daniels, when it comes to the Commanders in this one. Scary Terry. B-Rob right now is set to roll for the Commanders, and I can bring him up so we can look at him right there. So he is looking like he's going to play after getting another limited practice in with that knee. And then Eckler, this would change him to like maybe that like flex type range. If B-Rob is out, then I would upgrade Austin Eckler on that one. Like Ertz probably should be a roll ahead of some of these other guys that like we talked about, like Grant Calcaterra, because Ertz would be projecting as the number 2 in this offense behind Scary Terry. So I would feel a little bit better about chasing Zach Ertz in this game. The other thing when it comes to the Panthers, if you're going to be rolling out your Panthers not named Chuba Hubbard, would be following like Deontay Johnson, multiple injuries, limited on Friday, whatever that means. They are tracking that he is going to play. We could theoretically get as far as like rolling out like Xavier Leggett in that wide receiver 2 range, and then this would upgrade like Coker if those vacated targets are there, even into like that wide receiver 3 range. The number 2 in the offense at that point if Deontay Johnson is going to be out. But in this one, like Deontay Johnson would probably be the only guy I would feel comfortable with outside of Chuba to go along with this. And let's see, no news on, or Jonathan Brooks is going to be out in this one. Tommy Tremble cleared the concussion protocol, but he's still going to be questionable in this one. I probably wouldn't be chasing the Panthers tight ends. Next up is going to be your Chiefs and your 49ers. And you're going to be looking at 50.5 implied points. So I'm rolling out everybody. Shouldn't have to tell you about like who to roll out with the 49ers in the first one. And if you're wondering, they have the 49ers by 2 in this one. So first and foremost, Jordan Mason, he doesn't have an injury designation. So that should make that really easy. Ricky Pearsall is set to be activated. Juwan Johnson has been ruled out with a hip. Probably doesn't change my mind on Kittle, Ayuk, and Debo in one way, shape, or form. Debo does not have an injury designation this week. The other thing, outside of like Juju, and Juju would probably be in that like low end 2 range, like middle of the road 2 range going into this week. If you're wondering about like where I would put him as probably like the number 2 in that offense overall. And then the other thing would be talking about the running back situation for the Chiefs and how I would view these guys. So if you have your Kareem Hunt, I would be rolling him out this week against the 49ers with the caveat that I would downgrade him if Clyde is actually active. And the other thing that I would be looking at is what's going to go on with like Carson Steele and Samaje Perine. If they're all active, I think you are going to be betting on them, betting against that being a full-blown running back by committee at that point against what would project to be like, not a bad defense in the 49ers. All right, Jets and Steelers, and this is another one that I thought was a little odd. So Jets by a point in this one, and they actually have like 43 implied points. I could see that there's 43 implied points, but the Jets were more favored because, again, I don't know why Vegas is setting the line on this one when we technically don't know who the starting quarterback is going to be for the Steelers right now. Now, George Pickens basically came out and said that like Russ is going to be the starting quarterback for whatever that's worth. And again, if Russ is the starting quarterback, that would probably upgrade George Pickens. If Fields remains the starting quarterback, that would probably downgrade him. So if Russ is a starting quarterback, I probably would feel really confident about rolling Pickens out there. You're also looking at Cordero Patterson being out, so like Najee is still going to be like this really ugly RB2, regardless of what's going on with all that stuff. Let's see, Devontae Adams is supposed to be like full game day load when it comes to him. Where's he at? Oh, he's probably still with the Raiders. So there he is, full workload, whatever that means. I probably would put him in like wide receiver 2 range because knowing that he could have a spike week, but also he could be very disappointing in his first game when it comes to the Jets. And the same thing with Garrett Wilson. Like generally not knowing how that target distribution is going to go. Mike Williams is supposed to be active on game day. So with that, like I wouldn't be chasing like your Alan Lazards if you're in deep enough leagues that you have to worry about that. Tyler Conklin did move did pop up on the injury report, so I was maybe thinking that you would have a possibility of Jeremy Ruckert. Where's he at? But he did get a limited practice participation in, so I would imagine that if you're chasing Tyler Conklin at this point, you're probably hard up. I would probably be going like Grant Calcaterra over Conklin at this point, like chasing those opportunities overall. Let's see, Ravens and Bucks at this one, and so this one to start off with, and I'll bring this up before I get to it. So you are looking at 46 implied points. So generally speaking, look at like the 49ers and the Chiefs being at 50.5 points to kind of get an idea that they and 47 points when you're looking at the Vikings, 49 points Dolphins and Colts. So this is not a high implied point total game. This is not a low implied point total game either. So maybe we can start talking about like neutral script Buccaneers and Ravens, more for the Ravens than they are 5-point favorites. So this would be borderline when it comes to guessing on whether or not to be rolling out your Zay Flowers shares, because they are saying that this is going to be a game that may end up being slightly close, that you could think about Zay Flowers being in that wide receiver 2 range when it comes down to that, and then Derrick Henry obviously and Lamar Jackson. When it comes to the Bucks, one of the things that I would be tracking on is Mike Evans first and foremost. So I guess like that limited snaps that we did see in after waiver, 57% snaps, that's a hamstring that he's dealing with. So I would be paying attention to that rolling into the game. You could theoretically get an upgraded Cade Otton because of Mike Evans being out. Now, the other thing that everybody's wondering on, Rachaad White, limited in practice on Friday with that foot, whatever that's worth. So, like, if he goes, I don't know if I would trust any of the Buccaneers running backs. If he doesn't go, like, yeah, probably Bucky Irving would be in that RB2 range, and Sean Tucker would be in that flex, like, running back 3 range on this one. Trey Palmer, he is full concussion, but he hasn't been cleared from the protocol yet. So that would be another thing. If you're like wondering about whether or not you should be chasing some of the targets that are going to be going on with the Bucks and Cade Otton, if you're in that deep enough league that you have to worry about that. All right, finally, the Buccaneers and the Cards, they're at 45 implied points in this one, and they do have the Cardinals by points. So this is another one that I thought was a little interesting, that the lower implied point total I can understand between these two offenses. The Buccaneers by a point I thought was a little interesting in this one. And then right now we are tracking that Ladd was limited with a hip. Quentin Johnston was no Friday practice at this point. I bring him up so we can stare at him. So you are looking at Quentin Johnston limited, or no practice on Friday with that hip. This probably does not mean anything. I wouldn't have been chasing Quentin Johnston in the first place. DJ Shark may end up playing in that place, being that like sacrificial X, the clear out routes for your Ladd McConkey shares if you're going to be rolling him out. Hayden Hurst also didn't practice on Friday. If you're in like deep enough leagues that you need to be chasing like Will Disley at that point. And then the other one, like, probably would be stashing Kamini Vidal, would not feel comfortable rolling him out there with J.K. Dobbins, but like Vidal would be one of those guys that would be like league-winning lottery tickets theoretically down the line. Now, the Cardinals, this does get a little interesting. So, James Conner, I looked all week. There was no injury designation on him the entire week. That's first and foremost. Now, Marvin Harrison, he is upgraded full practice. It does look like he is trending towards playing on Monday night. The other thing is Michael Wilson did pop up in the injury report with an ankle on that one. So, again, expectation that you were going to get some type of spike week out of Michael Wilson is probably like very limited at this point, with Marvin Harrison trending towards playing in this one. And that's about like what I got. Like I again, Marvin Harrison, Trey McBride, yeah. James Conner looks like he is a pretty good role in this one. J.K. Dobbins and Ladd McConkey. Ladd McConkey, I do think, is a pretty good role this week based off the matchup. The Cardinals' defense has been they're bad against the run to begin with. Right there, they are pretty bad against the run, and then when it comes to the pass, like again, you got to remember, like when a team is this bad against the run, and they're this bad against the pass, like teams are throwing, they're basically are hitting play action off of the fact that you can't stop the run in the first place, because just because just because you give up a low amount of passing yards does not necessarily mean you're good at stopping the pass. It just means teams realize that you can't stop the run. So again, I probably would be rolling out Ladd in that like flex range, maybe even upgrading him into wide receiver 2 range based off the 8 targets and the 97 air yards that he had last week, expecting that spike week is going to eventually hit, and I would say like this is going to be the week when it comes to Ladd McConkey. So anyways, that's what I got for the roll, don't roll Grift for week 7, and I'll see you guys on Sunday with the sausage.